with this kit you need 5 roof supports, and they are transported within these pieces of MDF for safekeeping. And when you take the top one off, obviously these are extremely fragile. You have 2 in each frame, and there's 3 frames, so you've got 6. So you do have a spare one of these. You do, however, only have enough for 5 of these. Now these are the pieces of model board that attach to the inner and outer edges of the roof truss to make this become an H-beam. And you'll see on the model board you'll have the roof truss inner H frames. So that's that piece there and that piece there. You've then got the roof truss outer H frames, which are the top pieces there and there, and I've cut these out already, so that's what they look like. And then on the other panel you'll have the roof truss side inner H frames, which go on the side here and here, and the roof truss outer H frames, which go on the outer edge here and here. You just need to add a bit of glue on the inner edge of the MDF frame and then fit them accordingly. Make sure that they pop into the holes neatly. You can always use your spare piece of wood to lean them on. Be careful, obviously these frames are extremely fragile. There is not a lot of give on this corner, hence why we give you a spare one just in case you do accidentally break one. But just take your time on doing these. There's no set method of doing. I would most probably tend to do the outer edge on the top first, because that's something you can lean on, and then do the outer edges of the sides and then do the inner edges. But you'll most probably find that your happy way of doing these. But these are held on at the tops and bottoms, so you just need your zippy blade or sharp knife to just cut, tag them out at the tops and bottoms, and then they'll look like this. Just do that, obviously make sure you don't get them mixed up, and then glue them to the joists and then allow them to dry thoroughly. And then once dry, then we can think about doing some filling, but I'll come on to that a bit later. When you're gluing these model board parts onto your roof truss, you need to make sure you get them around the right way. So I just clarify it here. These are the 2 pieces the same, but one is the wrong way around. So they're the notches in your roof, and you can see they line up with this one. If I turn it around, they do not line up. So you need to make sure before you put any glue down is that you get them around the right way. And we recommend adding the glue to the MDF and not the model board in case you get that wrong. So just clarify that, make sure you get these around the right way before you glue these in position. So when I've added my roof truss, all I've done is I've tipped it upside down, and then I'm using my base so I can push down gently and making sure that they fit inside the holes. Sometimes you might just feel them clip in, sometimes they'll just go in easy, sometimes they might not go in easy at all. So just put a little bit of pressure down, don't snap it, but you can work your way down and making sure that if you do it on its side that it's flush with the roof truss. When adding glue to the MDF roof support, you don't need to use too much. Model board will adhere to this pretty damn easy, and if you put too much on it, it'll come out the side, ooze out the side, and then you're going to need to use a damp brush to get rid of it. Model board doesn't like water, so you don't get it too wet. It literally needs to be the dampest brush just to get rid of any excess glue, but you don't need much glue when adding. So that's the 5 top parts of the H-beam done on these cross members. Now need to take the underside for the roof ones and do those, and again need to make sure you get them in the right way. We'll glue those ones on, and then we'll work our way over to doing the outside and then the insides, and then these will all be finished, ready then for sanding, priming, painting, etc. So I'll carry on and finish the rest of these. Don't need to see how this is all done. You've got the gist of the idea at the moment, so just following on from that, I'll complete these and I'll come back and show you when it's done. So while we're doing the inner sides of the roof, just to say, the smallest end, so that's just slightly less of a width than this end, goes on the far side. So you might find these are very, very close, but it's the one with the slightest gap here goes to this end, and vice versa. On the other side, it would be that way around. So hopefully that helps. Right, another wee tip when you come to do the inner H-beams is to use your framework that they came in, because obviously the roof truss has a notch sticking out here which goes into your side of your diesel shed side frame. So you can't put this down on a flat surface, but that notches over the side really nicely, so you can push down on here. I've just put this piece of MDF here to hold it so it doesn't fall over, so you can utilize this piece of framework as well. So hopefully that might come in handy. Right, so we've done our 5 roof trusses, top, bottom, sides, inner, sides and outers are all done. So we now need to prime these. So you need to give them a coat of primer on both sides. Allow one side to dry thoroughly before turning over and doing the other side. Once we've done that, then you can think about filling in these here on the inner side. You don't have to if you don't want to. Depends on how far you want to go. You will see these if you do some photography and look inside, you will see them. But as this is designed to go on the West Hill Wagon Works inspection pit, there are a lot more unsightly joints than these. So it's entirely up to you, but what I tend to do is then get some polyfiller which comes out of a tube rather than mixture one. It's ready made, and then literally put them over the holes. Use my blade, my zippy blade, to run over the filler and flatten it, and then some light sanding, and then I prime them again. I don't do the ones on the top purely because you won't be seeing these, because you'll be putting your roof cross members on top, so it's only the underneath and the sides that you actually visibly see. So if you want to go a little bit to town, you add some filler, sand them down, paint them, you won't see them, or they'll be less visible. That's entirely up to you, but I will prime these and I will sand them and then prime them again, and I'll show you what they're like when that's done. But they're all done, and then we can put these aside and we'll add these to the list of things we've got to prime. So I've now primed both sides, or all sides should I say, of the roof trusses, and as you can see, you can still see where they join in. So I'm going to be using some filler, some fine surface filler, Polycell. Use the top of the range one, don't use cheap one, because you'll find Polycell, there you go, Polycell Polyfiller fine surface. That works really well. That's got no grit in it, and I'll just add a small bit over each of the holes, allow it to dry, and wipe off any excess with me little zippy blade. And then once it's dry, we'll use some fine surface sandpaper to sand it down. Now you need to prime these before you do any filling, because if you fill it and sand it without priming, you'll affect the model board and it will go horrible. So ideally you need to prime these in light coats, give them just a light covering, and then obviously cover them up with some filler. If you want to do that, you don't have to, but I'll carry on and do that. And I'm only going to do the insides, as I mentioned earlier before. I'm not going to do the outsides or the top. We're not going to see those, so we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've most probably spent the last 35-40 minutes going over these, because you've got to do it very lightly, otherwise you're going to damage the model board. Is it worth doing all this effort? Maybe not. It's entirely up to you. Depends if you want those to show or not, but I've done it. I've got plenty of time this evening to have just sat there, listen to the football and sand away, but that's as far as I'm going to go. And then obviously they will need priming again. Might need a couple of coats to get rid of the white marks. Just do some light coats as you go along, let it dry, a couple more coats, and that's done. So I'm going to put those to one side, ready for priming again. So after filling them, sanding them and give them another paint, they just look slightly better. You can still see some marks down the side, and ideally they need a bit more primer, but I'm not going to go to town anymore. So, but you can paint these again if you want to. Is it worth all the effort of spending time filling it, sanding it? Most probably not, to be honest, but that's entirely up to you. But there you go, that's done, and I can put those to one side until we need them.